I never thought I'd say this, but this is me at the picnic table in Paraguay, learning Russian with my girlfriend, preparing for the biggest trip of my life.
La segunda es B.
Bueno, yo no lo veo.
B.
Bu.
B.
No puede empezar la palabra con I, solo en tártaro.
After being in my relationship for 2 years and a half,
Es una vocal.
Pero cuando está dentro de una palabra ya es...
I was about to visit Anya's city.
Muy.
This was the
¿Cómo
biggest
se
plane trip I'd
escribe?
ever take.
Es como soft
I was
side.
born in Venezuela, but I was 2 years old when my family and I moved to Spain, so that really doesn't count.
Y no va a ser pasta o va a ser paella. No, ahora, pero bueno. ¿Y cuánto?
Funny enough,
cuesta?
with roots in Venezuela, moving to Spain and growing up in a Catalan environment, I've never really felt like I belong anywhere.
Todo. ¿Te acuerdas?
I never really got to fit in. Maybe that's why I felt comfortable being with someone from another country. It's not like it was easy from the beginning. I had to learn lots of things. And now, I was about to jump into a whole other reality. I didn't take a plane until I was 21 years old, and this time, at 25, I was about to take 2 planes worth 10 hours of trip to go meet the place where Anya grew up. This was the first time I'd ever traveled with a big suitcase. We were about to spend 2 weeks in Russia, and after landing in Istanbul, our destination finally felt closer. I can't lie, I was a little bit nervous. We arrived on Kazan's day, the city's anniversary, the perfect moment to discover what the place was about. I could never expect this to be a local celebration in a Catalan village. I was a little bit shocked, but it was cool.
Estamos en la azotea del centro familiar de Kazan, que es donde se casa la mayoría de gente, o todo el mundo. Normalmente en España se hace el trámite y luego vas a la iglesia. Aquí tienes que venir directamente aquí y casarte aquí. ¿Es así? Pero también te puedes casar en la iglesia.
No, es como boda religiosa, pero para registrarlo tienes que ir a ayuntamiento.
¿Se llama?
ZACS.
¿El qué?
O sea, toda esta estructura donde se casa.
Ahora, ¿dónde estamos?
Eso es como, sí, pero es muy de lujo, ¿sabes? Pero normalmente es un edificio tipo ayuntamiento, pero se llama ZACS. Para bodas, divorcios y para registrar tu bebé.
Y no hacen estas celebraciones allí.
Sí, sí, también. Pero no comen, solo hacen fotos y luego van al restaurante.
Es un edificio enorme y está al lado del río. Detrás de mí está la playa de Kazan, que bueno, es un río. Y hoy es día 30 de agosto, lo cual significa que es el día de la ciudad. Hace 2 horas se han casado 45 parejas a la vez. ¿Tú te casarías delante de tanta gente y a la vez que 44 parejas más? Yo no lo sé.
Ладно, можешь?
Чего сделать?
Открыть окно.
Кондиционер отключить, что ли?
Это просто для этого, для
А, свет.
кадра, да.
Anya had always told me that visiting Russia would help me understand her better. In the back of a cab, watching the landscape of her childhood pass by the window, while a song played whose lyrics I barely understood, I finally began to grasp what she meant. Kazan's the capital of the Republic of Tatarstan, which means it shares its culture with the Tatars, a people with their own language, cuisine, and traditions. We got out of the cab at Tuganabilam, a small place in the middle of the city surrounded by modern buildings that recreates a traditional Tatar village. The place is filled with cultural symbols, its architecture, statues, and even people dressed in traditional Tatar clothing who visitors often stop to take pictures with. This small corner of the city is a popular tourist attraction. Kazan shows a deep respect for Tatar culture, with a strong cultural blend throughout the city, and it may vary from house to house, but there's a widespread admiration for Tatar roots. Russia is full of canteens or Stolovayas. They usually serve very good food at a very friendly price. Anya had been talking to me about these places, and this seemed like the perfect moment to have the experience. This is a typical Russian meal: cucumber salad, chleb, which is bread, grechka or buckwheat, kotleta, which is a meat patty, kompot, a sweet fruit drink, better than juice, and I just needed to have that pie. I often ask myself what I have to do with the place I live in, the place I grew up in, and the place I was born in. What is there from my roots in me? I carry this heavy feeling of disconnection everywhere I go, and that's something that separates me from everyone, never letting me be, without questioning myself. After having lunch, we went on to a stroll around the city.
Es como Portal del Ángel, esto. algo así.
I couldn't believe I was there. Everything felt so different from home. Everything looked so interesting. Little by little, I was easing myself into this new place. It took time, but I ended up feeling really comfortable walking those streets. Maybe it was the sunny weather, which I later learned that was really unusual for the end of the summer in Russia. Maybe it was the polite attitude of the people I saw, the respect for elders, and this sensation of consequent hierarchies. One thing is for sure, I was really happy to finally be walking those streets with Anya. I need to say, though, that the traffic in Kazan is crazy. People try to squeeze their cars everywhere, and always wins who has the biggest ball. This was my first day in Russia, and I feared, as always, that people might not like my attitude. In the end, I'm a little bit lost about how to behave, and I get that I can seem a little bit odd. Sometimes I am too much in my own head, but I always try my best not to seem disrespectful. But being where we were, it was really easy to let go of all those feelings and ease into this new feeling of discovery. We decided to end the day there. We were still tired after the flight, and truth be told, I had a little problem at the airport, but that's a story for another video. We headed home in a frantic cab ride. I still couldn't believe I was there, but there was so much more to come. For the next 2 days, Anya would show me around Kazan, and then we would fly somewhere else to keep discovering Russia. On the second day, we had a family lunch at Anya's grandmother's house, or as she calls her, Babushka Ola. She has a garden around her house and a little greenhouse where she grows all kinds of fruits and vegetables. Anyone's current goal in life. She lives in a very small village near Kazan.
This is not the most representative church, okay? It's like really small one and really under construction, but it's a church where my grandmother goes.
The church was closed. Even though taxis in Kazan are very cheap, I didn't feel like traveling around like a test drive mannequin after lunch. So once we got home, we decided to take the metro to visit the Kremlin. Currently, Kazan's metro has 11 stops. To me, it felt fast, clean, and beautiful. It reminded me of Barcelona's L4, but actually clean. When you get off, people wait until you've exited. In general, I've noticed that in Russia, personal space is respected more than anywhere else. Every station is decorated with mosaics and paintings, and the platforms are spotless. And that's my review of Kazan's metro. Totally certified and backed by professionals.
A Anya le hacía mucha ilusión que visitase su ciudad. Llevaba mucho tiempo diciéndome que ver el entorno en el que creció cambiaría mi manera de entender cómo es ella. Y entiendo perfectamente a qué se refiere.
Anya left Russia in 2018. She spent a big part of her life in Barcelona, but throughout all that time, she always found a bond with her culture. She shared her adaptation to Spain with other Russian-speaking people. The cultural change was a shock for her, and it wasn't until some years passed that she was able to feel at home. Even if she feels more comfortable in Spain as the years go by, Russia will always be home to her. Maybe that's what the sense of belonging is all about, to be able to understand who you are through your culture, your roots. I believe, to me and to many other people, the place I was born in doesn't define my identity. Visiting Venezuela wouldn't help Anya understand me better. I never felt a big connection with that part of me. I also don't feel that the place I grew up in represents me. Of course, it shaped who I am, but I don't feel I belong anywhere. Sometimes it is frustrating to see others finding their paths without doubting, how they act without having to think, out of habit or of instinct. For a while I tried to fit in. I tried to be someone in a context I never felt my own. It was like wearing a mask that luckily with the years fell off piece by piece. And even if this feeling still haunts my brain and the frustration of not understanding or of not being like the others still torments me, since some time from now I felt more free. This is one of the most popular streets in Kazan, and about these frogs, if you rub their heads, you will be lucky. Same old story. At night, the city is still quite active. There's still street performers, and coming from Barcelona, I can say that the night is pretty chill in Kazan. It wasn't even that late, and we weren't going out to party or anything, but at that hour, some parts of Barcelona can already look rough. We saw a few drunk people around, but nothing too crazy.
Ahora está todo cerrado, pero normalmente hay de todo.
There are some roads in Kazan with up to 10 lanes of traffic, so they built these underground passages to make everyday life a little safer. Down here, there are plenty of shops where you can find almost anything you need. We walked through, booked a taxi, and wrapped up our second day there, on Pushkin Street.
Aquí lo pedimos.
It was a long day full of movement, and I was still getting used to everything, but I was really grateful to be there. Anya had already told me lots of stories of the city and the places she used to go to, the places she used to study, and how much everything had changed through the last couple of years. On our third day, Anya's dad showed us around the Kremlin. This place became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2000, and it's easy to see why.
Немножко сложно, потому что такой прям аппарат. There's also come for weddings, photo shoots.
Точное ее предназначение неизвестно, но, скорее всего, это для наблюдения за звездами, то есть обсерватория одного из ханов.
There's another story that says that after conquering Kazan, Ivan the Terrible demanded the hand of Soyembika, the queen of the Tatars. She asked for a 7-tier tower to be built in 7 days, and when it was done, she climbed it and jumped, choosing freedom over submission.
Let's enter the church.
Okay.
You need to take off the door.
I'm not the most religious guy, but anytime we're traveling, we always end up visiting churches. These places are full of history within their walls. This was the first Orthodox church built inside Kazan's Kremlin. Since it was built in 1562, it caught fire 7 times. During the Soviet era, it was closed and its bell towers were destroyed. Even if you're not very religious, it's impossible not to be impressed by these places. Kremlin literally means fortress, and almost every major Russian city has one. Kazan's Kremlin existed long before the conquest of Ivan the Terrible.
This is the residency of President of Tatarstan.
¿Puedo grabar?
Before the Russians arrived, Kazan was a purely Tatar city. Its population, culture, and religion were Muslim. During his conquest, Ivan the Terrible ordered the demolition of the Qol Sharif Mosque. Reconstruction began in 1996, and by 2005, it had become the most impressive building in the Kremlin.
¿Gorra está bien?
They didn't let me film with my camera, but if you really want to see what's inside, well, you might want to stick around till the end of the video.
Salimos a las 6.
We finished our tour and locked in the details for our next trip.
De la mañana.
For now, I was just touching base, but the next day, the biggest part of the trip would begin. To end our last day in Kazan, we visited Ram Park, an outdoor extreme sports park that's completely free to use. The place was packed. Throughout the whole trip, we were really lucky with the weather. It's just crazy to think that this place can drop to more than minus 30 degrees Celsius in winter.
Sí, el problema es que es solo para veranos.
¿Y en invierno?
No hay tanta luz, está todo el día nublado.
Since I met Anya, my perception of Russia has changed a lot. I don't even remember what I used to think about the country before knowing her. My head was probably full of viral dashcam videos and a bunch of stereotypes I'd rather not repeat. Yeah, I know exactly what comes to your mind when you hear me talk about this. When I met her, I realized we had a lot more in common than I ever expected. And walking around the city, seeing how people actually are, it made me think even more. It might sound crazy to you, but I find a lot more similarities between Russian and Latin American culture than with Spanish culture, even though they're so far apart geographically. Then again, maybe I'm just biased by ignorance. If you've met Russian and Latin American people and see it differently, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading. This trip helped me understand Anya on a whole different level. Being there made me realize how much effort she's put into giving up parts of what she was used to. And me, little by little, I've stopped trying to fit into any box my own lack of belonging pushed me toward. As the years have gone by, I've just learned to accept that I am who I am, a mix of things from here and there. All of it makes up this confused human being who is just trying to keep learning, for better or for worse. But that doesn't mean everyone else needs to be this way. And I certainly don't expect Anya to be. I don't want her to let go of who she is. And a big part of that is being Russian.
You said it so without accent.